This video is going to be over if you're given the standard form and you want to rewrite it in slope-intercept form. Now let's be reminded of what those two forms mean. Standard form is when you're given an equation like ax plus by equals c, like how this one is, ax plus by equals c. Okay, so when you're given it in that form, versus slope-intercept form, which is how we like a lot of linear equations written. Okay, they're easier to graph that way, that you can see 2 points immediately. So a lot of us prefer slope-intercept form. So we're just going to rearrange from here, from ax plus by equals c, to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So to start that, what you first have to understand is what we're doing is solving for y. So what I like to do when we solve for y is box out a complete term, including the sign that it's connected to. Okay, and you could even go through here and box all of these. Okay, so that's what I like to do first. So one is box y term, including the sign that's in front of it, because that's really important. Okay, next, what I like to do is anything else that's on that right or left hand side with that y term, I move it to the right hand side. And when I say move, I mean inverse operations. So, the step 2 is we're going to move terms. Okay, and by doing that, that means inverse operations. And we all know inverse operations, that's the opposites. Okay, so I take this 10x and I move it to the other side. So instead of a positive 10x, I now have a negative 10x. Okay, or you might see it written a lot of times down here and then marked out. Okay, again, I'm going to go ahead and go through this, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if you're one that likes to do it kind of sequential and all at once to help you remember what we're doing, then do it. If you have a worksheet, then just move everything over, each step all at once. So again, this was a positive x, so now I moved it over to become a negative x, so now it's no longer here. And then right here, positive 7x is now going to be inverse operation, remember. Okay, which all that means is the opposite operation. So a positive 7x is now a negative 7x. So it's no longer here. I'm going to leave the last one and do that all at once so we might see the steps. Alright, now let's go back and let's rewrite and let's see what we have. So now I have left a negative 3y equals negative 15 minus 10x. Over here, I have y equals negative 3 minus x. And then down here on the bottom left, I have a positive 2y, and I like to say what sign it is, so that way I get the correct sign written with my term. So positive 2y equals negative 10 minus 7x. Alright, now what I do is I'm color coding each step so you see what's going on in each process. Then, remember, our goal is to isolate y. Okay, so I don't want anything else with my y. So, oops, boxed the wrong thing. My y. I want this completely by itself. Alright, and if we notice, we have a coefficient in front. So we're going to divide everything by the coefficient. The coefficient is a number in front of a variable. Okay, so this negative 3, I divide everything by negative 3. And you could come over here and do it like this, and that way everything's being divided by negative 3. In the past, I've had a lot of students get confused with that, so I actually have them split it up and divide each term by negative 3. Okay, so negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, so that goes away. Okay, we don't write a 1 as a coefficient typically. So I have y equals, and now we're going to simplify. Negative 15, or I like to do signs first, so negative and a negative. This term's going to turn positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. A negative and a negative turns positive. 10 divided by 3 cannot be simplified, so we leave it, and then keep your x attached. Now, with saying this, if you look up here, your x term comes first, and then your plus b. This works. You just have to understand that your x term is last. But a lot of people like to go ahead and switch that around. Now to switch it, I tell my students to circle their terms with their signs, so that way you don't flip-flop your signs of each term. So all of this is positive, so if everything's already positive, everything's just going to stay positive. So to flip-flop this around, I'm going to say y equals 10 over 3x plus 5. Now remember, these two equations are just equivalent equations, just switched around. Okay, didn't do any math or didn't do anything to change any values here. I just moved things around. Okay, and actually, I mean, all these equations are equivalent, but it's just how do you want it written. All right, so now I'm going to do those last steps in the last two. If you notice right here, don't forget what your goal is. If your goal is to isolate y, my y, when I boxed it, is already by itself. So this is the final answer. But again, if you like it written with the x term first, box, and if you notice here, everything is negative. So when we flip-flop around, everything's going to stay negative. So y equals negative x minus 3. Okay, so again, either way works. Okay, isolate y. Let's get back to my blue so you'll understand which step I'm doing. So again, isolate y. So I've got to divide everything by 2. Okay, so again, 2 divided by 2 is 1, but we don't write 1 as a coefficient. We just bring our y down. A negative and a positive is going to give me a negative. 10 divided by 2 will reduce down to 5. A negative and a positive is a negative. 7 over 2, 7 halves. That's as simple as it can go. It can't be simplified. So 7 halves x. Okay, again, if you want to rewrite it with your x, again, it's just like the one we just did before. Everything's negative. So when we flip-flop these around, everything is going to stay negative. All right, and I saved just one to do all at once, so you see all the steps going at once. So I've already boxed my term. Oops, I need red. So now what I'm going to do is inverse operation. Inverse by moving this term. So this is a positive 18x. And again, some people like to write just a negative 18x here. So what we're doing, since these are not like terms, we can't combine these, so we just write it to the side. So it's no longer on the left-hand side. We've moved it to the right-hand side. Okay, so now let's just clean it up and see what we have. So I drop down all my terms. Okay, then again, we got to remember our rule, or what our goal is. Our goal is to isolate y. We don't want anything else next to our y value. Oops. So now I'm going to divide each term by negative 3, by the coefficient of our y. Okay, so I'm done with my y, or my negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. So I'm left with y, which that's what our goal is. But now let's simplify the other side. Positive and a negative, I'm going to get negative. 9 divided by 3 is 3. A negative and a negative is going to give me a positive. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and keep your x attached. Okay, again, that is the final answer, but if you want to rewrite this, And if you look here, now you see that my 3 is negative and my 6x is positive. So when I rewrite this, I need to understand that. And sometimes I think it helps to say that out, or say it in your head, say it out loud, however you're going to flip-flop it. 6x is positive, so I need a positive 6x. My 3 is negative, so I need a minus 3. Okay, again, either one of these work. All right, I hope that helps you. Rewrite formula, rearrange formulas. Remember, you're going from standard form to slope-intercept form.